Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to explore a truly profound perspective shift on mortality. We're drawing this from a fascinating text known as the second word. Now, if you've ever found yourself, kind of grappling with the concept of life's final boundary, and let's be honest, who hasn't? You are absolutely in the right place. We're going to unpack this incredible framework of faith that takes what is literally one of the most universally avoided topics on the planet and transforms it entirely. We're talking about replacing that heavy existential dread with a deep, actual sense of purpose and structure.
Okay, let's dive into this. Why does that single word, death, evoke such a visceral, almost universal reaction in us? I mean, it's totally natural to feel some apprehension when you're confronting the ultimate unknown, right? But this text asks us to just pause for a second and look a little deeper. We aren't really just afraid of a biological process. What we're actually afraid of is what we assume that process represents. It's the absolute finality of the whole thing that really tends to grip us.
You see, the source material points out that our fear stems from a very specific, deeply ingrained view. It's this assumption that death is just the abrupt ending of absolutely everything. It's that terrifying, honestly paralyzing concept that all the love we've built, all the connections, the vibrant tree of our lives, that it's all just going to turn to ash and be permanently erased. When we look at mortality simply as this total loss, this plunge into absolute nothingness, well, of course it naturally becomes something we want to run away from. It makes it feel like all our hard work was just for nothing.
But what if we completely change the lens through which we view our time here? The second word introduces this highly structured, incredibly logical framework through the lens of faith, and it uses this really powerful idea, the military analogy. Instead of viewing life as this random series of chaotic events that just leads to an abrupt, meaningless end, this perspective asks us to view it through the organized, purposeful structure of military service. By shifting our mindset to this analogy, the entire narrative of human existence transforms. It goes from being a tragic, fleeting accident into a highly meaningful, structured deployment.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because it's pretty fascinating. Watch how this analogy plays out across three distinct phases of our existence. Step 1, enlistment and arriving at the barracks. In this framework, birth is simply the moment a soldier is called to duty and arrives at their post. Then we hit step 2, which represents active duty, that's our life. And look at what that duty actually entails. You aren't out there dodging bullets or just complaining about the barracks food. Your actual mission is learning, showing patience, doing goodness, and worship. It is a period of active, meaningful responsibility. And finally, step 3, discharge. Under this lens, death is no longer an execution or some sudden erasure. It is simply the natural, expected end of a tour of duty. Your time at the barracks is up.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive paradigm shift we're talking about here. On one hand, we have the default perspective that drives all our fear, right? Absolute nothingness, a total void. But through the lens of faith, death is completely redefined as a discharge. It's a transition to another realm entirely. Think about it. When a soldier finishes their deployment, they don't just cease to exist. No way. They simply leave the barracks and they return home. The mission is complete, the duty is fulfilled, and they're just moving on to their permanent residence.
Now I want to slow down for a moment here, because it is absolutely vital to address the human element of grief. This framework, it doesn't invalidate our feelings. The text puts it so beautifully. It says faith doesn't make one emotionless, but it places meaning inside the pain. Look, separation from the people we love is still going to hurt. It just is. Adopting this perspective doesn't mean you somehow become numb to the pain of losing someone. But what it does do, however, is remove that devastating sting of absolute finality. The pain of missing someone is natural, but that crushing despair of thinking they are gone forever, that gets lifted.
This brings us to a deeply reassuring takeaway from the text. Separation is not absolute. When a fellow soldier gets discharged before you do, sure, you mourn their absence from the barracks. You miss them. But you know for a fact that you will eventually follow them. We are not abandoned in some chaotic, random universe just left to fade away. The journey absolutely does not end in the grave. The grave is literally just the door out of the barracks. This perspective guarantees that human beings are never truly alone, and they're never without purpose, even in their very final moments.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is when we zoom out. This takes our individual journey and expands it to a macro view of the entire cosmos. If every single living being is like an official on a tour of duty, the universe itself completely changes in our eyes. It's no longer this dark, depressing graveyard of creatures just fading away into nothingness. Instead, it becomes an incredibly dynamic, deeply orderly realm of test and service.
Those who arrive take up their posts. Those whose duty is finished hand over their responsibilities and gracefully transition out. It is a breathtakingly organized system of constant, purposeful movement.
So the crucial point is how this cosmic perspective actually impacts our normal everyday lives. Remembering death, when it's framed as a discharge, doesn't shrink our life or make everything gloomy. Actually, scratch that, it does the exact opposite. It adds immense value to our ordinary actions. If we're currently on active duty, what are our actual daily tasks? Well, it might be finally apologizing to a friend, doing a simple good deed, praying with a bit more consciousness, or just spending quality time with your family. Understanding that our time here is a structured deployment gives this profound weight and beauty to these seemingly small everyday responsibilities.
Which brings us to our final thought. Instead of hiding from the reality of our mortality, this new perspective invites us to use it as a tool for profound motivation. If you view yourself as a soldier currently on active duty, knowing for certain that one day you will be honorably discharged and sent home, well, take a look at your life right now. As someone preparing for that inevitable discharge day, what task, no matter how small it might seem, can you do more beautifully today? I'll leave you to reflect on that. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the second word, and keep finding meaning in your daily duty.